I don't know if anyone else feels like this, but I really thought I'd be further along by now. Like, I don't even know what further along really means anymore. But I guess I just had this picture in my head growing up that by this point in life, everything would just make sense. I'd have it all figured out: stable job, money in the bank, confidence, direction, maybe even that feeling of, okay, I made it. And the weird thing is, nobody ever sat me down and explained that picture wasn't real. It just kind of built itself over time from watching other people, movies, TV, parents, society, all of it just quietly feeding this idea that there's a point where life clicks into place and you arrive somewhere. And I think for a long time I was chasing that without even realizing it. Like I kept thinking I was behind, like I missed a turn somewhere, like everyone else got some kind of instruction manual that I didn't get. And the older I've gotten, the more I've realized nobody knows what they're doing. Like seriously, nobody. Some people are just more confident while being confused. And that confidence makes it look like they've got it all together. But underneath, it's the same questions, the same doubts, the same, what am I doing with my life moments? And I just wish someone would have told me that earlier, because I spent a lot of time comparing my behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel, thinking like I was the only one struggling, the only one unsure, the only one not where I was supposed to be. And that comparison will definitely mess with your head more than anything, because now you're not just living your life, you're measuring it against a version of a life that isn't even real. And social media definitely does not help with that at all. Because now you're seeing people your age, hell, they're buying houses, traveling, starting businesses, looking happy as hell all the time. And you sit there thinking, hell, what am I doing wrong? Why am I not there yet? But you know what you don't see is you don't see the debt, the stress, the pressure, the sacrifices. You don't see the stuff that they don't post. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying those people aren't doing well, because some of them definitely are. But what I'm saying is you're only seeing a small curated piece of their life, and you're comparing it to your full reality. And you know what? That's not a fair comparison. And I think a big part of getting older is slowly unlearning all the expectations you didn't even realize you had. Like, you start to see that life isn't this straight path where you hit milestones on schedule. Life is messy, it's unpredictable. Sometimes you move forward, sometimes you fall back. Sometimes you feel like you're starting over completely. And you know what? That doesn't mean that you failed. It just means you're a human. And you know what? For me personally, I've come to terms with the fact that my life didn't go the way I thought it would. Not even close. And for a while, that did bother me. Felt like I wasted time, like I should have made better decisions, like I should be somewhere else by now. But I started thinking, according to who? Like, who decided where I'm supposed to be at this exact point in my life? Because, when you really break it down, most of those expectations weren't even mine. I mean, they were just things that I picked up along the way. And once you start questioning that, something kind of shifts. Because now, instead of feeling like you're behind, you actually start realizing that there isn't actually a universal timeline that you're supposed to follow. There's just your life, your circumstances, your choices, your path. And yeah, maybe it doesn't look like what you imagined when you were younger, but that certainly doesn't automatically make it worse. It just makes it different. And I think there's a lot of quiet pressure in midlife that people definitely don't talk about. This feeling that, time is running out, that you should have it all together by now, that you don't have room to mess up anymore. And really, that pressure can either paralyze you or it can wake you up. And trust me, I've felt both. There are days when I look at my life and think, man, I should be further ahead than this. And there are other days where I think, hell, I'm still here. I'm still going. I've made it through things that I never thought I would. And maybe that counts for more than I used to give it credit for, because success certainly isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just staying in the game. Sometimes it's getting up when you don't feel like it. Sometimes it's choosing not to go backwards, even if you're not moving as fast as you want. And I think that's something people overlook, especially online, because, everything is about big wins, big moments. But let's be real. Real life is mostly small, quiet progress that nobody even sees. And if you're not careful, you will definitely overlook your own growth because it doesn't look impressive enough. And that's certainly a dangerous place to be because now nothing you do feels like it's enough. I mean, I've definitely been there. I still go there sometimes. But I'm certainly starting to see things a little differently now that I'm older. Like maybe the goal isn't to arrive somewhere. Maybe there isn't this final version of you that has everything figured out. Maybe life is just this ongoing process of figuring things out as you go, adjusting, learning, messing up, trying again. And if that's the case, then maybe being further along isn't really a destination. It's actually just a perspective. Because I can look at my life and see everything I don't have, or I can look at it and see everything I've made it through, everything I've learned, everything I didn't quit on. And both are true. It just depends on what I choose to focus on. And I'm not saying you shouldn't want more or try to improve your situation. You absolutely should. But there's definitely a difference between wanting better and constantly feeling like you're just not enough where you are. And I personally think a lot of us live in that second space without even realizing it, like always chasing this version of life that's like just out of reach and thinking that once we get there, everything will finally feel right. And then you talk to people who are already there and they're dealing with their own version of the same thing, just at a different level. And that's when it really hits you. This feeling doesn't come from where you are. It comes from how you see where you are, if that makes sense. And it doesn't magically fix everything, but it definitely changes how you move through life. Because now, instead of constantly feeling behind, you actually start focusing on what you can actually control, your effort, your mindset, your direction. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's always been enough. And I don't have a perfect ending to wrap this up because truthfully, I'm still figuring out like everybody else. But I do know this. If you feel like you should be further along by now, you're definitely not alone, not even close. And it doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean you're too late. Hell, it just means you're human. You're living a life that didn't follow a script that never really existed in the first place. Maybe instead of asking why you're not further along, the better question may be, compared to what? And once you really sit with that, things start to feel a little different. Not perfect, but a little lighter and a little more real. And honestly, that might be a better place to be than the version of life we thought we were supposed to have all along.